In my opinion, which is what this entire video will be, my opinion, Audible isn't just unethical, as has more recently come to light, but has always been a crappy and overpriced platform that results in an all-round bad experience for the listener and apparently the authors, and I've been using something vastly superior for almost 3 years. Tjena chicos, in this video I want to tell you what the platform is and why it's better. Now, I have no affiliation with any platform, not this one nor any other, so the opinions in this video are completely my own. Now, what I'm going to say is applicable even if you're only wanting books in English, but if you've seen some of my other videos, you'd know that most of the time I listen to things in other languages, but whether it's for English or any of the other 40-ish languages that this platform offers, I would always take it up before Audible, and if you are interested in language learning as a hobby, then I'm about to blow your mind. Before we get to that, in order to get the most out of the platform and the internet in general, you will want a VPN, and the one that I've been using for more than 3 years is... Who are you?
I'm Surfshark.
You're a platypus.
I'm a VPN. It's a disguise.
That's convincing, but what do you want? I'm doing the ad right now.
Your ad sucks.
You don't even know what I'm gonna say.
You're gonna say that websites track you and your service provider keeps a record of which websites you visit, and with Surfshark you can stay safe on the internet by hiding your IP address, and it now also has antivirus and blah blah blah.
No, none of that. That's all true, but I was just going to say that the audiobook provider I use is a cheaper, better alternative to the current default option, but you will need a VPN to access the whole catalog.
Is that it?
I was also going to say that if people use my link to get a discount and referral code Lamont to get 3 extra months for free, then even with Surfshark, the service I'm talking about is still cheaper because you can put Surfshark on unlimited devices. So it doesn't matter whether you're listening on your phone, reading on a tablet, or even doing both at the same time, getting Surfshark means that your whole household gets unlimited access to the real best audiobook catalog in the world.
Well, my ad was better.
Yeah, righto. What was your ad gonna be?
I was gonna say, are you a shark or a platypus? Get Surfshark today.
Link in the description. Now, I am finally going to tell you what audiobook service it is that I'm talking about, but before you just go to the website and stop watching the video and start doing stuff on the website, you should know that it's a Swedish company and I have a lot of experience in this whole field. I know things that you will also need to know, but it's going to take you a lot longer to find them out yourself rather than just watching the video, so just watch the video. I've made accounts for this service through 7 different countries over the years because they all have different pricing options and different languages that they offer at those prices, etc. So I know what I'm doing with audiobooks, not with life in general.
Surfshark.
And we're talking about Storytel, 1L, or if you're pronouncing it in the original Swedish, Storytel. First, let me quickly summarize the 5 reasons that Storytel is better than Audible.
In my opinion.
Raison. We're doing the reason counting in French, apparently. Je sais pas pourquoi. Storytel uses a much more logical and customer-focused payment model that will almost always work out cheaper. Raison deux. In my experience, it's a better working, better designed app. It just looks nicer and works better. Raison trois. For most titles, you have access to the ebook and the audiobook in the same place for no extra cost. Raison quatre. Range of languages, more than 40 of the bastards. Raison cinq. Range of stuff in general, even just in English, which is actually pretty freaking embarrassing for Audible, just in case they weren't embarrassed enough. Look, for me, any one of these 5 advantages would be enough if all things were equal, but all 5? That's just stupid. Before we get into the details of the 5 advantages, let's quickly get some stuff out of the way. A, I'm completely aware that Audible is Amazon, and that in the time that it takes me to finish this sentence, Amazon probably pocketed about $10 billion, so no, this video isn't trying to stick it to the man. B, while I fully support people taking up the ethical battle with Audible, my beef with it is simply that it's a crap platform. C, I'm not calling out any creator who has worked with Audible. If you weren't very familiar with audiobooks, I can see why you'd think that Audible was good. D, I can't find any solid proof of this, but it seems likely that Storytel are in some kind of licensing partnership with Audible, but that doesn't make using it the same as just paying Audible directly. Worst case scenario, you're still paying Amazon less, paying less overall, and getting a better service. Best case scenario, you're paying Amazon nothing, still paying less overall, and still getting a better service. So now to dig a bit deeper on each of the benefits I named, firstly, the better payment model. Storytel uses a subscription model that actually makes sense for the service being offered. You know how everything's going subscription model, and people are rightly wondering if this is just a way for businesses to make more money.
Probably, yeah.
Yet what do Audible ads always say? For just X amount per month, you get 1 audiobook to keep. That's weird. Why is Audible one of the few services that lets you keep something? Is it because they're really nice people? No.
In me opinion, me lord.
I think it's because audiobooks are a service for which it makes very little sense for the consumer to keep, but it still makes big bucks because of how appealing it sounds. It sounds good, right? You subscribe, you get your book, and even if you unsubscribe, you still get to keep the book.
For as long as it remains on Audible's catalogue.
But let me boil that transaction down for you. You just purchased an audiobook. That's it. You just bought the book. And although you can, you're very unlikely to ever listen to that book again. Let's not kid ourselves. Audiobooks are something that it makes perfect sense for a customer to just subscribe to, just like you do a gym. You don't hear anyone complaining that their gym's gone subscription model, because it was probably always subscription model, like almost every gym, because for gyms, that just makes sense. With Storytel and some other audiobook platforms I should add, you just pay every month, and whatever you want to listen to or read in that month, you just read or listen to. You're not worried about wasting your free book on a short book or a boring book or a book that you only ended up needing one chapter of.
Just be aware of that and make sure that you listen to the free sample before you actually decide on that audiobook.
It's just like you would rather rent access to the gym rather than buy every single piece of equipment there, especially since whenever they like, a gym can just remove a given piece of equipment. And I get that there are some exceptions within an audiobook setting, but in general, it makes more sense to just rent access to an audiobook catalog. Now, I should point out that with Storytel and some of the other platforms, there are some caveats to this. For example, in some countries, Storytel does offer a limited subscription that gives you a certain number of hours per month, but even that generally makes more sense and is a very reasonable price. For example, most countries have the standard limit of being 20 hours per month. That's 40 minutes a day. Quite a lot of people would not be hitting that, and therefore it makes sense to pay less to have that limit. But even if you are on an hourly limit and you happen to reach it within a given month, you can upgrade to another tier and just pay the difference remaining for that tier. There are some countries where it's an unlimited subscription only, but they're generally countries where the subscription is cheaper already. Now, whether Storytel is cheaper per month than Audible depends primarily on two factors. One, how many books you listen to, and two, what country you sign up through. If you were to sign up through, for example, Iceland, the most expensive subscription, and only listen to one book, then yeah, okay, in that situation, Audible may have been cheaper, assuming that they even had the book, but how's Audible's Icelandic catalog? I'm guessing not great. And then obviously the more books you get through, the more value you get from a fixed price like Storytel. And if you sign up through basically anywhere that isn't one of the 5 Nordic countries, it's probably going to be cheaper before we even talk about how many books you listen to. And in case you're wondering, yes, every single country's subscription does offer the full English catalog, except for the very cheapest subscription in India. That is the only exception. The rest offer the English catalog. Moving on to the second benefit, and I won't spend long on this, but for what it costs, I can't really say that Audible is a particularly pleasant or smooth user experience. Now, it probably has improved since I last used it, but that's because when I did use it, it was so clunky and bad that I never ever wanted to touch it again. So basically, Audible had their shot and they missed. Storytel is just a really smooth app with a bunch of features that work perfectly. I never feel like I'm lost or like I don't know how to do something in the app. In the channel members exclusive second half of this video, I'll go into how I use the app for language learning and for other things, and one tiny little thing that I think they could add to make it even better, but basically I think it's perfect. Benefit number 3, for most titles, you have access to the audiobook and the ebook in the same place for no extra cost, and you're not pushed towards buying a Kindle. Now consider this alongside the first benefit, because Audible will tell you that if you've just spent your book for that month on a certain audiobook, and if you now spin around 7 times on the spot and sprinkle the blood of a virgin on your Kindle or something, I don't know, you get the ebook for free. But when you break that deal down, it's still not really a good one.
Enligt mig.
Because although it sort of feels like you're getting 2 things for the price of one, you're still really just getting that book. It's the same title. Now personally, I'm not really that big a fan of Kindles or dedicated e-readers. I actually have a really good Kindle that I was given as a gift once, and I just haven't really used it that much. I get the appeal, they are fantastic tech, but personally I'm just not drawn to that whole Audible Kindle ecosystem. Whereas with Storytel, just every now and then I might flick over to the reader rather than just letting the audio player keep going, because I'm subscribing to the service. It's not a different title in a different place this, it's the same thing. And yes, it knows where I'm up to, just like WhisperSync and all that. And I know that people will say, well, Audible and Kindle can do that as well, but you've still at least got to commit to both titles, even if you don't actually pay for them. They're not considered like the one book. And that brings us to advantage number 4, range of languages and ease of access to them. Now, of course, Audible has different languages, but going back to point 1, with Storytel, you're free to just browse around different languages. You listen to a bit of a book, and maybe that book's too hard because you're only intermediate in that language. You can just stop and choose a different one because you didn't buy or commit to that book. The other thing is, within the app, you can toggle the different language catalogs on and off. So here we see I'm not interested in Danish, so it's currently turned off, but if I toggle it on and then search a given author, I see their books in Danish, as well as the other languages I have selected. This is really useful for doing what I've recommended in other videos, which is to take a book that you've read or heard already and then listen to it in your target language. So if I want to see if Australian author Jane Harper has anything that's translated into Swedish, I just toggle on Swedish and search her name, and yeah, there are her books in Swedish. And since I have some other languages selected at the moment, I see that I could also listen to those books in Finnish, Danish, and German. And look, I know for some people watching it'd be like, wow, who cares? I only speak English. But the fact that a pretty random Australian author has not just been translated into these languages, but audiobook recorded as well, shows that there is demand for content in these languages, and that's before we even get to language learning cases. That's just within the countries themselves. But with something like Audible, it's rarely even available, let alone user-friendly or cheap to access. And that brings us to benefit number 5, which is that, at least in my experience, there is a better range on Storytel, and that's just within the English catalog, which is kind of insane when you think about what Audible has pitched itself as being for the last decade. The place to get audiobooks. Anecdotally, at least, I find it a depressing, expensive place to hear crappy narrators give a 6 out of 10 performance.
The narrator can be less than human sounding.
Now, this last benefit does come with the caveat that I quickly mentioned before, which is that it seems likely that Storytel does license some of their content through Audible. So all I'm saying here is that given that Storytel seems to also have additional catalogs even within English, and most of their non-English catalogs have nothing to do with Audible, the likelihood that you can find what you're looking for is going to be higher on Storytel than it is with Audible alone. And if you still can't find something good, then my advice would be to learn Swedish, because in Sweden, everything's an audiobook. Like, you order a coffee, they don't ask milk or sugar, they ask like milk or audiobook. Okay, it's not a good joke, but it's a real thing. They do record a lot of audiobooks. Det blir fint. Bok tack. Now, you're probably wanting to know which country to click on when you go to the website, but that greatly depends on which languages you want and for how many hours a month. So I spent 2 days looking into which countries offer which languages and how much various tiers in those countries were, and I made a half-hour video about it. It was released a few days ago to the Tim Tam Cartel, my channel members, but here is a quick excerpt now to give you an idea of the sort of detail that the video has. English or Turkish or both, then you might want to sign up through Turkey, where it's about $2.60 US for unlimited access if you pay per month, which is pretty good value, I guess. But if you pay up front for the year, it will cost you under $19 US for the year. That's fine. And all of that will be available in the channel members video because it's like super nerdy language detail stuff. So if you want, you can see that video as well as other channel member exclusives for just $2 US by clicking join underneath this video. But if you don't need that kind of nerdy detail, you can probably just look at the flags here and take a pretty good guess as to which ones are going to be cheaper than others. If you're not in any of these countries, you can totally still use Storytel completely hassle-free. You just need a VPN, so don't forget the link in the description for a discount with Surfshark, which is the VPN that I personally use. I can attest to the fact that it works with Storytel seamlessly. Use code Lamont for an extra 3 months for free. Leave me a comment if you found this video useful, and until next time, lo quiero.